I had Zoom why it takes so long. They said they're doing security checks, so we're doing security checks, guys.
Check 1, check 2, security.
That's right. Yes. Okay. I think we're live now. Yes, we look like we're live. Okay.
They're running a background check on me. I gotta go. I'm just kidding.
I didn't know we had to do a background check in order to do these shows. That's news to me.
Oh, please. I'm clean as a whistle.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt here with Alex King and Joel Elston. Today is Thursday, June the 13th, 2019. It is 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London, 10 p.m. in Sydney, Australia. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I'm happy that Joel is back. We get Joel back. We're not going to have him next week, but we'll have him every week thereafter. So there is an increase in Joel appearances here on the show going forward.
Yeah, we'll determine if that's good or bad as we go forward. But,
right.
It's always good. It's a good thing. So, hey, I wanted to tell you guys a story that happened this morning. I was asleep.
Do you want to do your announcements first?
All right. Yeah, why not? Let's do announcements first.
Before you forget.
Before I forget. Well, actually, apparently I did forget. You just reminded me. So
that's what I'm here for.
So, yeah. I mean, we often try to do the announcements after a few minutes just to give you an idea of what we're talking about in case you hadn't heard one of the shows before. But we can go now and say, hey, there's lots of stuff we're doing every week that's really interesting. You want to do the 5 shows a week thing. And the way you do that is by becoming a subscriber to the podcast. So just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. Click the little buttons on top. It'll give you all the instructions for how to do it for your device. And once you're done, it takes just a few seconds. You're a subscriber. You'll get all of our episodes streaming right to your smartphone or computer or whatever device you're using. And then, by the way, as you're supposed to do with any kind of stuff like this, share the fact on social media that you're listening and that you're liking LOA Today. And since we're now live streaming on YouTube, we invite you to listen to us on YouTube and actually watch us and see Alex with her beautiful headphone ears and, enjoy the fact that you actually get to watch us while we're doing the show. So you can go to YouTube, you can do the search for LOA Today podcast videos, or just follow the link that's in the description of this podcast. All the descriptions now have the link. And then once you're there, click the subscribe button. And then there's a little bell. How's the bell work?
You click the little bell right next to the subscribe button and you'll be notified every time that we go live.
It's that simple. So there you go. There are the announcements for the day. I'm glad you reminded me to do that. Now we didn't forget. Because otherwise it'd be, Joel will take over in about 2 minutes and I won't get a word edgewise in for the next 25 minutes.
There you go. Yep. That's preemptive. That's good.
It's the way it works, right? So anyway, I was asleep this morning. It was a little after 6. Louise comes in and wakes me up, and she says, "I got to go out." I said, "Oh, what's up?" And like I said it in a very groggy voice, what's up, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she tells me, well, she has to go over to a customer's house to get some tarps on top of the mulch and compost that had been delivered because we're going to have rain here, and you don't want to have wet compost or wet mulch. Not if you want to keep your staff happy.
Right.
Because moving wet stuff like that is very unpleasant and very heavy. So, okay. Well, do you need some help? Yeah, I could really use some help. I mean, it's a big delivery. I need help getting use your height to get the tarps over the mulch and so forth. So I said, oh, okay. So I'm staggering out of bed and get dressed and looking at the clock. Oh, we'll make it just in time to get back for the podcast. Okay, this is going to work. We get in the car. And my wife is driving a little bit quickly. And I'm thinking, whoa, okay, so what's going on? And we have a little conversation about it. She says, well, I'm always driving quickly. And it occurred to me that one of the things that she's complained about lately is having a lot of stress with the business, which there has been quite a bit of stress. Mm-hmm. but it kind of reminded me, one of the ways that stress happens is, well, all stress happens because of what we think internally, right? So if we're driving fast because we feel this urgency, like, oh my God, I got to get there, I got to get this done, and so forth, we're building up stress.
Yes.
Which means the thing to do is to slow down. So I'm looking over, and I won't tell you what the speedometer said compared to the zone we're in. Let's just say on the high side.
Ooh.
And I said, slow down. And we had this conversation like, oh, well, we got to get there. It's starting to rain. You can see the raindrops coming. All right. So we have this whole conversation, and I'm talking to her about, and she knows this stuff. I mean, she's a former psychotherapist. She understands all this stuff, but we're having a conversation about, you got to slow down because you got to send your body the right signals. You don't want your body to get the signals that you need to stress out. You need the signals to say, slow down. Well, we got there. It's a long trip. It's like a half-hour trip to get there. We get to the location, and there's no mulch and there's no compost. They hadn't delivered it yet.
Son of a bee sting.
So what? And she calls the place, finds out, no, they haven't delivered it yet. So she arranges with them to deliver it on Saturday after all the rains had passed.
Yeah.
Which means there was no emergency.
Oh, man.
In her head that she had invented to continue the pattern of building stress.
Yeah.
So I realized the purpose for her to wake me up wasn't to help cover mulch. It was to help her deal with this fact that she's been ongoing every single day, building up her stress just by driving fast and feeling this urgency. Oh my God, I got to get there fast. Got to get this done.
Yeah.
So Joel, my question to you is, how often do we do this? I get the feeling humankind does this a lot.
Yeah, the the really sort of the self-imposed deadlines. Stress is fuel. Stress gives us a lot of times an illusion of the urgency of needing. That you gave the perfect example. This is all self-induced. All we have these deadlines. You're the anxiety attached to. I got to get this done. Everything's going to fall apart if this doesn't happen. And the reality is, none of it mattered. Not a thing in the world of that matter. It just it happens, but it is a condition. We're almost conditioned as humans in today's society with the access to all this information, the access to it. You have to go at this pace, and if you don't do it, you're not being productive, and everything. This awfulizing of thought again is where a deadline is just, I have to get there. When you arrive, you realize not a bit of this mattered. And it would have, even if the thing would have been, would 7 minutes have mattered? Would 12, it's mind boggling to think what we do. But again, it has become sort of if you ever just sit on a bench in New York City and watch the people walk with the urgency of, I have to get there. I must get there. I must do these things. And it's like, wow, you really, it really doesn't matter, but yet the stress, and then the body, it's all internal. The body creates a lot of stress chemicals, which, I have a belief that the body becomes sort of dependent on stress chemicals. And when you take a break, it almost feels like I should be doing something, or I should be moving. And then you're just sitting there and that almost creates stress. Again, what should I be doing now?
Yeah. In fact, I was noticing that on the trip back after we went through all that, because Louise was noticeably trying to slow down. I mean, she was trying to do it, but you could see the speed changing. She would speed up and then she would slow down, and then she would speed up and then she would slow down. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to sit there and be very calm and send, feelings, vibrations of calmness and relaxation and stress-free and so forth, just to help her and support her. And she's going through that little thing, just oscillating back and forth, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. It shows just exactly what you're saying. It is so habitual that she actually has to work to compensate for it.
Well, and I see it a lot with, like parents that, kids get, when they go off to college, for example, a lot of times it's just this 18 years of chaos almost. It's just constant, nonstop drama. A lot of stuff happen. Especially if I'm involved with a family, there's always something going on. And so when you get to that place and the kids leave, the moms will often come in and go, "What do you do now?" It's just that void of not just missing the kids, but that void of the stress and the anxiety and these self-induced deadlines that you realize that they are part of a process that doesn't serve you. One of my things is I'm very punctual. I love to be on time. I like to be a little early, and I will find myself. I did this. In fact, it's funny you said this yesterday. I needed to get to a meeting. I was going to be there 10 minutes early, like I normally was. Well, traffic was exceptionally slow. I got behind this one guy, and it seemed like the one lane I got in was always the slow lane. I was going back and forth in between lanes.
That's how the highway works.
And almost the more I did that, then I would notice the car in front of me off to the side speed up a little, so I couldn't get over.
Of course.
So now I'm thinking, okay, this person is. And then I said, wait a minute, just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. This is a meeting that it's something that if I'm a minute late, there's always somebody late to these meetings, always.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a minute late to this meeting, it's no big deal. Well, first of all, instead of getting there 10 minutes early, I got there 8 minutes early. The difference in that I save in between, I have to remind myself of that. What's the point of all this, and what are we doing? But the stress that it's like it's become a drug for us.
Yes.
That you almost put ourselves in stressful situations to perform, and then you lose sleep over. Like I said, Louise got up early, did this. You guys were running around with all this stress and anxiety that none of it mattered. And especially when you get there, it's like, okay, all this was a really waste of energy and even thinking about it.
They hadn't made the delivery.
Yeah. Well, you see that a lot. You'll see this. I've done that before, where usually it's not something that's in my control, but I'm dealing with an emergency, and I had to text you last week, last minute client emergency.
Right.
I rushed to the office. I'm having to deal with, I'm meeting this family there. And so I go there, I change my schedule around. Well, I get a text saying, "Oh, we forgot to everything's fine. We don't need to come in."
Wow.
So, well, no. I literally changed my world to get there.
Yes.
Now, it's not a money thing. This is a family. They insisted on paying me. It's not that part. It's the fact that stress and that anxiety, I start my day off that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have to be very careful not to get into stress, anxiety, because when we start thinking about the law of attraction, when you're putting that stress, anxiety, energy out there, that's what it's picking up on. So let's get some more of that. And that's what the law of attraction delivers without opinion.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's really, that's it. It's about what's the word we use? Oh, mindfulness. It's mindfulness. Being mindful of what you're feeling and recognize, oh no, I really don't want to go down that path. Mm-hmm. That's one of the best things that we learn when we're learning to be deliberate creators, is just being aware of these patterns we set up for ourselves, noticing them and saying, you know what, that's not the choice I really want to make.
That's exactly what I do. Because I don't deal with stress well, like at all. Like it brings me to tears. I can't handle stress. So speaking of what you guys were talking about, the one thing that does stress me out is being late. And because I don't drive.
Do you guys know each other? I mean, right? You guys both have this thing.
I mean, so because I don't drive myself, it's an extra stressor. So, because my mother is late for everything.
Oh, jeez.
My father always said she's gonna be late for her own funeral. I swear. So, there was points where I had to go to doctor's appointments, and they have that if you're more than 10 or 15 minutes late, your appointment's canceled. And that's going through my mind. So I'm in the car crying because we are running late. We're going to get there late. I am upset. So you know what I did? I just deleted the whole situation, and I started giving my mom the wrong times. And so now because On time is late, man. So you got to get there early.
Actually, I thought that was a great way to deal with stress. Most people would swallow it. You're just crying your eyes out, getting rid of it. You say you don't handle stress very well. I think you're doing very well. I mean, Joel's the expert on this, but that's my
well,
take.
no, because by the time I get to the appointment, I'm like, hi, Alex King. Like it doesn't stop. It goes on for the entire day. Like
I see. Yeah, so it becomes a little compulsive. So that's not
right.
So yeah. Okay. Joel, do you run into that very often? People who overdeal with stress?
Well, yeah, it's like anything else. Everybody's on a personal, sort of their personal way they handle it. Whether it's like anything else, whether it's grief or stress or whatever. It's how you deal with it. There isn't. I haven't found any one right way.
Right.
It's simply an individual thing. And I also want to make a side note. I always want to be. I will often use the words anxiety and stress in the same term, but clinically and from the perspective we're talking about, anxiety disorder is a real thing that's different than stress.
Yes,
and I want to be very clear about that. If you have anxiety disorder, that's a medical condition, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stress and how we deal with it. That stress, every human has some form of stress. Some of us, without stress, it wouldn't be healthy. I mean, we need to protect ourselves. We need I know people that have been placed in situations due to extreme wealth where they're not required to do anything. And as sad, as ridiculous as this sounds, they're as debilitated as not having any money. I mean, so they're worse in a way. So not having some motivation to get up and get moving in life or have some stress can be a great tool. In fact, I know people that intentionally have used their stress to sort of as rocket fuel to create great careers. And it's like anything else. It can be a tool. It's always assumed it's bad, but when it's debilitating and when it gets you off of the focus of what is in your direct control, that's when it's debilitating, or when it causes great chaos. I understand that when I take action, anything that I feel stress about, I have to figure out of the things that's making me stressed, what am I going to do? Am I going to be able to respond to it? Mm-hmm. And now the area that I do have power in, the stuff I can take action on, if I take action, it's the ultimate stress reliever because I'm doing something about it. Mm-hmm. But when I find myself worried about the outcome that's out of my control, that's where I have to start realizing I could choose to worry about this if I want. However, it's a choice. I'm volunteering for that stress. It's not. I can't control somebody else and their behavior. I can't control other conditions. I can't. If the list of things I can control, that there is a very limited number of things. However, that's where all my power exists. And so I can use stress in those areas. Now, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, stress can be a great motivator. But if I'm doing everything I need to be doing and my stress is coming from other people, then that's my problem at that point. That's where I need to learn I can't control the actions of others. I can't control the weather. Despite what Walt says, I can't control the stock market. I can't control somebody's other people's behavior. I can't do all that. I'll often hear if my kid would just do this, I would be happy, or I wouldn't have this stress. Or if my spouse or significant other would just do this, things would be great, or I wouldn't have this stress. Or someone else is causing me stress. Those are the signals that we need to look at, because if someone else is causing you stress, you're allowing that it's a contract you're making with that person to allow it to happen.
I've always liked that phrase, we are volunteers and not victims, because so often it's true. I mean, there are certain times that, in life where we do get victimized by stuff, but for the most part, we're volunteers. And for the most part, we volunteer convincing ourselves that we're the victim and that we weren't volunteering, which is an amazing thing all by itself. I mean, it's a hard thing to come to terms with. I don't volunteer to make myself uncomfortable. I don't volunteer to, stress myself. I'm not a volunteer, but I do.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
that's
it's your
why
interpretation of events. One of my clients, one of the most amazing clients that I have, is a gentleman that served in the Middle East. I always say that in big term, but I don't know exactly which war or campaign and all. But his job was to defuse bombs.
Yes, I remember this story. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that I can think we can start with a little high stress level there.
A little bit.
And yeah. So he tells one particular story, and I've said this on the show before, but I'll repeat it. He was in this compound, and it's this walled compound where a lot of Americans were, and it was a safe area. And I wish I knew better to locate, but it was in the Middle East, the bad part, so to speak. And there's just a lot of insurgency going around, a lot of war going on around. But this compound was sort of a safe zone. Well, they try to breach the compound, and they dropped a bomb. The enemy dropped a bomb in the middle of the compound that did not explode. But it was lodged in the ground, and if it explodes, it's going to wipe out the whole compound. And at the same time, they were sort of breaching the walls and shooting down on the compound. So the goal was to get everybody running around and then ambush them. So he was sent out to defuse the bomb with 4 guys with bulletproof vests and M16 shooting up at the people who were shooting down. And all this chaos is taking place, and there's people all over the place shooting up at the wall. It's this big war, but if he didn't get the bomb defused, it doesn't matter. So you can just get this scenario where he's looking down, he takes the cover off of what he has to look at. They said the moment that he focuses, everything goes quiet. He is able to solely look at the thing, follow the wires, and he has to really concentrate because sometimes the wires are established. Now, most of the time on bombs that don't explode, he explained this to me, it's not a booby trap bomb in the sense that they're not trying to deceive the person because it's supposed to explode, so they don't waste a lot of energy with a very convoluted explosion pattern. So he said that it isn't like one of those things where you have to follow a bunch of wires, but he did have to get the basic layout. And obviously cutting the wrong wire could have disastrous results. Well, he finds it, and all this is taking place. He said it's completely silent. He finds the right wire. He cuts it. It's clear the bomb is safe, or it will not explode. And the moment that he does that, all of a sudden he starts hearing the gunfire again, and he realizes there are bullets hitting all around him. One of the guys that was protecting him was shot in the leg. It was all of a sudden just all this chaos. But he was able to, when he focused, do that. And that's one of the things that happens. I sort of view life like that, and where you have all these things happening, but when you realize some of that is out of his control, a lot of that is almost all of that is out of his control. However, when it came time to focus, he was able to dismiss even the stuff that was out of his control, focus on what he had to do. Then he was able to observe it and move on. But that's a level that few people can ever get to. And thank goodness people like him exist. But most of us get into this awfulized state of mind where stress is defeating, then you're bypassing the normal thought process. You're not using logic. You're operating out of desperation, when a lot of times it's not a desperate situation. This guy's situation was. And he wasn't operating there, but a lot of people will take them. If I don't get there, everything's here's what's going to happen. It's like, really? Is it? Like I look at it this way. Louise in the example today. Let's look at that. This isn't about Louise. It's just about you gave that example.
Right.
The question that I'd ask Louise while she was there: what is the absolute worst thing that can happen in this? If everything goes totally wrong here, what happened? What would that be, Walt? What would the worst case scenario be?
Let's see. Well, the worst case scenario would be that the mulch gets soaked, the compost gets soaked, and we have to leave it for a few days before we can actually do anything with it because it'll be too heavy to move it around, and so that upsets the schedule. So she has to shift the schedule around and find all different ways to get stressed out about that. That's about
yeah. So really the stress was about potentially more stress.
Pretty much, yeah.
Is what you're saying. Yeah. So, but there's no one's life was at risk there.
No.
And I'm not trying, and please, when Louise hears this, I'm not picking on Louise. I'm just, this is just the concept that what we do, we take something and it's like, I've had people ask me that question. Well, what's the worst thing that happens here? Well, to be honest with you, nothing. Or minimal, or you improvise. In fact, often worst case, when things happen and it's stressful situations, maybe you develop something new. Maybe inventions have been made of people that had things that didn't go right. Let me come up with some way to work around this. Let me come up with another idea, another solution. It's those are things that when we look at it from the perspective of what's in our control is great. And driving that extra 3 miles an hour or 10 miles an hour or 17 miles an hour, even really, if you figure out even, with stops and other things, the time saved is very minimal. And for example, if you were to get either in an accident or pulled over by the police, you will drastically reduce your time. Extend your time of getting there, and then you will create even a far worse scenario than being 3 minutes late or 1 minute late.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, it's very true. I keep thinking about a movie that Louise saw. It's a biopic. She's got it on DVR, I believe. And it's a story of these guys who are surfers. And they were, when they were younger, they were pro surfers. They were on the pro circuit. In fact, they helped to establish the pro circuit. They all came from various walks of life, different parts of the planet. They all ended up in Hawaii to surf that pipeline that, the famous surf pipeline. And one of them ends up as a character on Baywatch, and it turns into this whole long building thing about how they become surfers. And at one point in the story, they one of their members drowns, and of course it devastates everybody else. And then there's a big to-do between two of them who are like the top surfers in the world, and they're constantly competing with each other. And there's this big story that happens along with that. And ultimately, they kept finding more and more ways that the competition just became so intense that it actually interfered in their friendships, and they ended up going their separate ways. Until the one who was the top surfer, the one who had also been the biggest instigator, hit bottom. And he ended up he was, I don't remember where, I think he was in Australia or something like that. And the other friend, the one who he had competed with, saw him there and saw that he was in depression, probably dealing with drugs, all kinds of things. And the two of them kind of worked together to kind of rebuild their lives away from the pro circuit, getting sponsors, what I think they call it, free surfing sponsors. In other words, they're not actually competing. They just got sponsors because the sponsors know that people are going to watch them wherever they surf, no matter what the conditions are, regardless of whether they're in a competition. So they're building this whole thing there. And then this guy who was at the center of it sends out a text message to all of their friends. There's like a group of 10 or 12 of them. Sends a text message out, basically reaching out and asking them how they're doing. That was the essence of it, which was unusual for him. He was not the one who would be the person to do that. Okay. And it turned into an ongoing thread that brought them all back together again. So now they actually mostly live in the same place, or they spend a lot of time each year together in the same place, usually in Hawaii. And they basically reformed their group friendship along the lines of, I just care about these other guys. These are guys.
Aww.
And what a great storyline that is. But it also shows how, you can take a situation that's stressful and turn it into one that's not stressful. You can actually de-stress just by changing your perspective. So Joel, just like the story you told about the bomb diffuser, he took stress out of it by just tunnel vision focusing on what it is he had to do, to the point where he didn't even hear the stuff that was going on around him. I thought there's a war going on around him, and he didn't even hear it because he chose to change thinking about it. And the surfers decided they were going to change their perspective. They just weren't even going to notice. They weren't even going to deal with competition anymore. And
That's how I do it.
Changed as a result.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, that's both of those are encouraging stories. And the story with Louise this morning, they're all encouraging stories because they show us we really can change our perspective, even in the most difficult circumstances. And it's not as hard as we thought it was going to be.
Nope. That's where I came up with the "Why do you care" movement.
Why do you care?
Why do you care? Like every time something would like bother me, and I'd sit there and think about it, I'm like, but Alex, why do you care? And I got to put that on a T-shirt because goodness, that would make me some money. But yeah, it was like, and we were doing a lot of podcasts, and people were asking questions about certain things, and I'm like, guys, why do you care? Like it's not, it doesn't affect you. If you really think about it, it doesn't affect you. It's somebody else stressing you out. So why do you care?
Mm-hmm.
Keep it moving. De-stress yourself.
It is a big deal.
Well, that's the $1 million answer to all this is the perspective. When you're in control of your perspective, and that's the ultimate key to anything. You wake up and what you do is what you do, and you're in charge of how you feel about it, and that's how this drives it. And most people don't realize they have no problem putting energy in things they can't control. It's almost conditioned to. Let's worry about what this person does. Never understanding that we all have that ultimate power of things we can control. That's it. I mean, that's life. When you, and like you're saying, why are we worried about it? What does it matter? That's why watching, Walt and I've talked about this a lot over the years, watching the news. When you're watching the news and you're watching all the negative, and the stock market is going to crash soon. Well, the world's going to fall apart, and there's going to be more wars, and you're watching it, and it depends on. It doesn't matter which side you're on, because the other side is out to destroy this country, and
right.
Everybody's they literally are fighting. I can see, because I have such a diverse group of friends. I can see my friends on the right and my friends on the left truly adamant in their belief that the other side is going to destroy us, and they don't understand. They really think they're the only one right, and they get stressed over that, and they get stressed over these little things and the rhetoric. And so 24-hour news cycles now, these news channels, they stoke that fire. My dad finally quit. I finally got him to. He's living in a assisted living facility now, and he's loving life. I got them to, sort of block the news channels, and he doesn't watch those anymore. And he's doing so much better, because he was just convinced that the liberals were trying to destroy our country, and he would not have a place to live. And he really just believed that. I mean, he would just be upset calling me, just, what are we going to do when everything falls apart? I go, Dad, nothing's falling apart. Everything's fine. And yet, and I'm not picking on one side. Both sides are equal.
Both sides are equally good at doing this. They're very good at it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it starts with, fear is a great motivator for people.
Facts.
And then and then when you take it and say, we're going to change things, so that's even more uncomfortable. All it takes is to mention to the senior population, we're going to change Medicare. Oh my gosh, it just sets the world up. It's like, what are you going to do? Take away this, or you're going to do this, you're going to do, and so that the idea that they've learned, we can't even mention Medicare, because it'll just get you in trouble. It just, you have all these many things that, we become conditioned to. Stress is a tool for our politicians. It's a selling point for, different things. And, a lot of products use, fear as to induce stress as a way to sell this, or, the idea that you need a security system, or all these people, all this is going to happen to you, or, one of the big things that, working with the population of kids over the years I work with, one of the big energies placed on, is all these evil people that abduct children and rape them. Oh my gosh, that is one of our biggest fears, that this will happen. Now, I'm a huge child advocate, so when I'm saying this, please understand what I'm saying. But the number of stranger abductions and rapes is tiny, tiny, tiny. The number of family members and close friends who rape children and molest children are like 99.9% of the ones that happen. Very few children are abducted. but that the energy is placed on, well, don't, and again, it's wise advice to stay away, but you can't sit there and live a life that it is looking at the wrong. Let's look at the truth of where their danger is. We create danger, then get fearful around it. And it's just ingrained, it's interwoven with the fabric of our society today. And that a lot of the stuff you'll see on the social media has a fear-induced base to it, or it wants to create that, and it's a comfort zone. Stress has become a unintentional comfort zone, even though it's not comfortable. But it's almost your default. And if you're not stressed, it doesn't feel like life is working.
It's like a line that I ruined yesterday when I was talking to Alex in a private phone call. But I'll try to get it right today. It's one of my favorite jokes. World ends today, film at 11, and it really summarizes beautifully exactly what you're talking about. We can build up these huge amounts of angst about something that isn't actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing how good we are. I mean, talk about being deliberate creators. So many people complain, I can't make anything happen. My God, you make it happen all the time. Look at it. Look at the result. It's just not what you wanted. That's all. But
any adult, especially some of us who've lived a little longer than some of the others, I have survived the unsurvivable. Stuff that I never thought I could survive. Now, it might not be pretty, but I'm 100% successful in surviving the unsurvivable. So my batting average is 100%. It can't get any better. Now, as I said, it wasn't pretty, and there's some real ugly moments along the way, and it was very close that I wouldn't survive a few times. But at the end of the day, I have survived whatever life has thrown at me, and everybody listening has done the same thing. So if you're here, you have survived the unthinkable. The stuff you worried about that thought you couldn't get through, you're here. You survived it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you understand that, it doesn't. And I don't want people to get the idea. You don't have to worry about anything. No, I want some urgency in life. I want people to live with some, but don't do it with the intention of success. Do it with I get up, I'm driven every day. I get up, I have a very busy schedule. I don't get stressed over it. I choose my schedule. As my being self-employed, I choose what I want to do. People say, well, you can have a really stressful job. I said, well, if I view it that way, it's stressful, or I can view it that I chose this. I was given the opportunity. I do this because I'd rather do this more than anything on the planet. So it's not stressful. It's just a perspective. If I'm going to a job that I hate and I have a boss that I dislike, and all this is taking place, absolutely, there's a lot of stress involved with that.
And clearly, your friend who was the bomb diffuser did not look at his job in a stressful way. If he had, he would be dead. Yeah. He had to look at it in a non-stressful way so he could do the job well, which shows that, hey, if he can do it, anybody can do it.
Right.
And that's what you get up every day. That's why that inner dialogue is so important. I have to go to work. I mean, we start looking for things to be stressed over. I have to go to work. Oh God, it's Monday morning. I heard somebody, we do seem to have an inordinate amount of Mondays lately with rain in them. I don't know why.
Law of attraction, it has to be.
Law of attraction, but again, I don't care. It has no bearing on the world to me. But
agreed.
I will hear often, oh my God, it's another Monday. It's rainy. It's going to be a traffic jam. Yes, it is. So traffic on any day on rush hour is going to be terrible with rain. Then you add the perception of Monday, and it's like, okay. But it's again, Monday's a perception. I have actually, over the years, by changing my inner dialogue, I truly have convinced myself that Monday is my favorite day of the week. It's just, it's for so long, because the way my life was being lived, I was living my life for so long. Mondays were just scary to me because I had a lot of chaos, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stuff happening that took place on Mondays, and it was all self-induced, but at the same time, it was real. And so I dreaded Mondays for a long time. I almost couldn't sleep on Sunday nights because of Monday.
It reminds me of an old song that Alex probably didn't know because it was probably written when she was born, but it was by the Bangles called Just Another Manic Monday.
I do know that song, so.
Oh, well, I mean, I didn't mean to know it. I just said that, it's just, well, I guess I did say that, didn't I? So I apologize.
I also know what was that other song? I forget who sang it, but my teacher used to play it every Monday. How does it go? Was it the Mamas and the Papas? Monday.
Oh, yeah. What's the name of that one? Monday, right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But I particularly like the Bangles version because of the way in that song, the writer of the song juxtaposed Mondays and Sundays. Just another manic Monday. I wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day.
Yeah.
They're just days.
Right.
There's really no difference between Sunday and Monday, but she illustrates very nicely how we perceive there's a difference, and so we end up with a difference. But they're just days.
In the hairstyling world, Sundays and Mondays are our weekends.
They're days off.
So, our days off. So we're usually open Tuesday through Saturday.
Right.
So Mondays are like, for me, I don't know, they're stress free. Like every day stress free for me. I don't really care. But yeah, once you change your perspective on things, it can open up a whole nother world for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't get a kick on Mondays.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Well, and a lot of it, again, is that perception of what, I have reframed my thinking to, I get to go to work. I have the privilege to do the job I love to do.
Right,
so
right.
When I get up, I'm able to do it. There's mornings I get up and okay, I wish I could sleep a little bit longer. No, I want this. I want this. I'm intentionally living the life that I want. And so when you're living that life intentionally, then it's hard to be stressed over the life that you have chosen versus viewing the life as being forced on you. Like, I have no option but to do this. I had a conversation the other day, and this is real life versus preferred life, I guess, or in a perfect world life. But this guy has a horrible job. He makes a lot of money. He has a lot of debt, and he makes $500,000 a year, but spends about $600,000 a year. So
okay.
He's working really, really hard. And he said, I don't know how long I can survive the stress of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what are you willing to give up? And he said, well, I'm not willing to give up anything yet. I said, well, okay, then it's going to be stress. And what are you willing to, and he wouldn't even, I said, so you're not even willing to give up the stress is what I was trying to get him to say. I'm willing to give up the stress. But he is so entwined with this stressful, like, I view struggle as a positive, but when you're using struggle in a negative sense, or it is stress inducing. Struggle is not productive when you're coming from that angle.
Right.
It's struggle is growth if you're looking at it as a growing mechanism. He's just sort of managing it, trying. And I said, well, you're paying $20,000 a year to a country club that you don't go to because you're too busy to go to.
Hello.
And I said, what? I said, I can give you a $20,000 raise by not doing that right now. and his answer was, then my friends will know I'm struggling.
Oh my God.
Okay. I said,
well, why do you care?
Exactly. but the image is the most important thing to him, and that's he's spending all this time for the image of what other people's perception is. And all of his peer group is when I moved into the home that I'm at now, I really got really lucky. I was the market had crashed. The interest rates were ridiculously low. I probably bought at the bottom of the market. My interest rate is like 3.1%. It's really a great interest rate.
Sweet.
And so I really got into the right time. And so when I was looking to buy, the realtor, it was at the time it was my son and I, Chris, it was us two. And the real estate lady said, well, you could buy twice the home of this. Why are you picking this home? I go, I don't need twice the home. I need this home. It's a 2,500 square foot home for two people. It's just plenty. I don't know why we need
that space.
Little bit.
But she did not understand why I wouldn't go to, by the other section of the neighborhood where it baffled her. She said, but you're qualified for this amount. I go, I don't want that amount. It's not the point. You're missing the point. This is what I want. And so there's almost this expectation to go immediately buy what you're qualified for. And my point is I want to buy what I need and want. And I don't, I don't like townhomes personally because of my voice. I wouldn't want to be my neighbor. So
you can
imagine the wall
blow up microphones. I mean, there's a problem. Yes.
Yeah. That wall rattling voice. But I also hate yard work. So I found the neighborhood, I have these nice little yard. So there's space between my neighbors so that I can still talk as loud as I want, but I don't have a lot of yard work. I have the perfect scenario. The perfect location is everything I want. And other people, because other standards said you should be in a 5,000 square foot home on the lake. Well, I don't want a 5,000 square foot home on the lake. I don't want the upkeep of that. I can only occupy X amount of space. I don't need all that.
But Joel's big, but he's not that big.
Not that big, yeah. But you get the perspective I'm trying. These are the things that are important to understand. That the stress of living up to certain standards or living, in that environment. I know people on Wall Street that are starting out that go buy a $30,000 Rolex because they feel it's necessary to demonstrate that wealth among their peers. The people that make a fortune on Wall Street that are already arrived, and they don't even wear a watch. They don't need to prove anything.
Right.
But Bill Gates wears $20 khakis.
Yeah,
exactly.
He doesn't need to say, I'm Bill Gates, I have $100 million. He doesn't need to point that out.
Well, it's also how the rich stay rich.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you stay rich by not waste all your money.
Exactly, because I know if I won the lottery, I'd still shop at Walmart. Don't play me. That's how I'm going to keep my money.
I love it.
Well, I know people, again, I'm not judging people. Everybody's got to choose their own path, and hopefully they figure this out. But I really know people that are, again, I don't know their situation, that they're riding the bus, they're going to work, they're wearing a Kroger, that's our grocery store here, they're wearing a Kroger uniform or shirt. So my assumption, again, is they're probably, making what you'd make at a grocery store, not usually not a whole lot of money. And they have $1,000 iPhone. Like, well, how's that working? But apparently, and I'm not judging. That's their priority. But it does put it in a position of, it makes you question things, right? And so I'm just going on the premise that you have to decide every day, are you going to be stressed or not? And follow the path. It's a choice. We make a choice to get into the contract of stress, I call it, and it is a life hack. It is figuring out. I don't do it perfectly. I still find myself caught up in that. But especially when it's an artificial deadline, that's when I laugh at myself. It's like I've just created a deadline that doesn't really exist, but somehow it's a driving factor in my life today, and I don't know why.
Yeah. The thing that keeps coming to my mind as we're talking about this story, these stories, there are a lot of stories that I've been telling here, is the idea that we very rarely focus on what it is we really desire. All of these things are running away from things we don't want. It's the news. We don't like the news. Oh my God, this terrible news, and the liberals are tearing down the world, or the conservatives are tearing down the world, and the world ends today. News at 11, and the mulch is going to get buried in, and the traffic's going to be in the way, and all these terrible things are going to happen. What is it that we desire? We always express things in terms of what we don't desire. It's no wonder we get so stressed.
Right.
What if there was like a new, I don't want to make it a law because that starts forcing people, but what if there was like a new program or a new tendency that people had, like a Me Too movement? Today I'm going to decide what it is I really desire in my life. not in terms of what I don't want, but in terms of what I do want. You know, not in terms of avoiding pain or avoiding struggle or avoiding this or avoiding that, but in terms of what would I actually like? What would I enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
That's a question a lot of people don't even ask.
Mm.
I would say the majority of people don't ask because we're conditioned to state what we don't want. We're conditioned to avoid what we perceive as uncomfortable, and that gets to that other, you know, the comfort. The perceived comfort is actually a stress inducer. You know, when it's counterintuitive. Like, oh, my comfort zone is I don't want any stress, so I'm not going to challenge myself. But somehow the idea that effort is stress is it's not that way. But yet it's perceived as that. There's more energy spent when people are avoiding effort or whatever. They create more stress. It doesn't operate the way you would think it would operate. And so I get it. I see people all the time struggling. I don't know if they understand they're doing it voluntarily. In fact, most often they don't. But, well, I don't want this at all costs. Or, you know, I know people that have not left jobs because well, I'm making enough now. Yes, but you've been offered a job at a double your salary. You have this going on. Well, yeah, but I'm comfortable where I'm at. And you see these things, you're baffled by it, but you can understand it. It is a very, you know, we as humans have developed a very complex response to life, and it is counterintuitive often. When we get stressed or we worry, it doesn't serve any purpose other than feeding the law of attraction. Again, it's that opposite result. What you worry about is what you bring about. It's there. And so if you want to make the most effective way to get something is to worry about it, worry about the lack of it, and then you'll attract it.
I got a great example of that yesterday. Louise and I were trying to find, I think she wanted the electric screwdriver and we couldn't find it. You know, so you know how it is. You can't find the thing. You know it's not in the place where it's supposed to be, and you check there twice and it's still not there. So you start digging through boxes and you're going through closets. Where is the darn thing? And as I'm going through all this stuff, I'm going through boxes, I'm going through closets, and I'm seeing all of this stuff that, you know, there's the stuff that we bought. And we bought it, and many times we didn't even use it, but we bought it because at the time we were stressed out about something else. Because I mean, Joel, I've documented here many times the financial difficulties we've been through here as a family, Louise and I.
Yeah.
And here are all these decisions that we made over the years demonstrated in these boxes and closets, things that we didn't really need, that didn't serve any useful purpose, but they were purchased at the time because out of a sense of fear, oh, this is something that I will buy this because it's cheaper than the other alternative, even though it turns out it's not going to work. Or I'm going to, this is going to fix all my problems and I never use it again. You know, and I look at it and I say to myself, wow, we made a lot of decisions based on fear that panned out to nothing useful except for junk in a box.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We had an interesting, I think it was Justin's first year with me. We had a hurricane come through or head this way in Richmond. Well, Richmond's, 100, we're way inland. So, I mean, I used to live on the coast in Florida. So, we went to school. Yeah, we went to school in Category 1 hurricane. So we did, so when I hear there's a hurricane coming to Richmond, I sort of go, okay, I'm sure that's going to be, yeah. So when all this was happening, he came to me and he was watching the news. He said, do we have an emergency plan? And I said, yeah, we have an emergency plan. He goes, well, what is that? I said, well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, it was clearly bothering him. And he said, well, finally he said, Dad, what's our emergency plan? Do we have like 5 days worth of water? Do we have all this? And I said, I just held up my keys. And he said, well, I don't understand. I go, we'll just leave, buddy. We'll just leave. We'll go down to our house in Florida. We'll go stay with friends in North Carolina. We'll just leave. And when they get it fixed, we'll come back. He goes, well, and his answer was, well, that doesn't sound much like an emergency plan. I go, well, it's ours. But he was conditioned to believe that it was going to be basically The Walking Dead played out here in Richmond. And, I have a full tank of gas and I have a 4-wheel drive truck. I could get anywhere, and I could get out of here. It's just not going to be this scenario where I'm going. And it doesn't mean I didn't have some water and some candles. I don't mean I didn't have that. But this idea that we needed to be prepared for 25 straight days with no electricity and have to have your guns out to protect yourself, we're just going to go somewhere else. And somewhere there's going to, we'll just keep going. We might end up in Tennessee, but other than a total lack of dental support, there would be in good shape. We had.
Facts. No offense, Tennessee.
Sorry. Yeah,
I think it's great how you found one other thing to worry about. That was wonderful. I love that.
yeah, exactly. I had to throw that in there. So, but you get my point. It's such a, we as a society, in fact, one of my great examples, I just talked about this the other day with somebody. Today is officially our last day of school. In Hanover County, Virginia. Justin's last day was yesterday. We took today off, but the last year we had a potential tropical storm move through the area, and it was scheduled to hit on a Friday. Now, the school system here, we have an incredible school system, so I'm not, I'm glad they keep our kids safe. But on Tuesday, they canceled school for Friday.
I mean, dang.
Yeah. And by the time Friday arrived, the storm passed way south of us. It was sunny, and the kids were out playing. It's like that they got all this. They're watching all the media, and so I'm not critical. And we do tend to close really easily when it's here.
Yeah,
but that's not the point. Yeah, but the point is, I wouldn't have cared if we closed, but let's wait till Thursday and see if it's imminent. Because almost immediately when they closed school, by that time they said, well, the model says it might turn south, and then by the time Wednesday came along, they said, well, we may get a little rain, and then on Thursday it was like it's going to be sunny and a high of 84. It's like it's so. But again, that anticipation, that worry, that let's take. It's almost like, well, let's take some action, but instead of logical action, you take the fear-based action, which, you shut down the schools for a day, and just like you're saying, well, you buy things you don't need, you create this stuff, and it's like, what am I doing? Why am I buying into that? But it's a conditioned response, and stress and anxiety is probably, again, separating the anxiety disorder piece, which is a big problem as well. But just basic normal stress and anxiety is at a much higher level than if you talk about the nutritional choices we make, caffeine and sugar, how it compounds it and adds to it. I mean, we are the most stressed of. At any point in history, I think we're the most stressed, and for no reason. Even during World War II, when we were fearful of the world falling apart, I don't think we're as stressed over. Then it was legitimate. Yes, we have to go do something. This is just, I'm worried about worrying. That's it. I'm worried about stress at this point, and it's crazy.
That reminds me of the doomsday preppers that are like out of control. They they got their guns stocked up. They got their what is it? That dehydrated food all packed up in the garage, and their water, and it's insane the extremes that they go through. Like, I've been watching reality shows of these people going through all these things, and I'm like, what's happening? What are we preparing for? Like, they're like, well, this is in case of the zombies, and they got spikes on their fences, and I was like, oh Jesus, okay. Live in the now, people. Live in the now.
It reminds me of my favorite science fiction author, Robert Heinlein. He wrote this really, really great little poem that he put into the mouth of one of his young characters. She was reciting what to do in a crisis. And the poem goes, when in peril, or in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout.
Yeah.
I thought that pretty much summarizes it.
Right.
That's a good way of saying it.
It's like I was saying the other day about how there was a meme about, learning how to stop, drop, and roll as a kid, and realizing that we're, as adults, we are not on fire as much as we thought we would be.
Isn't it amazing? And quite reassuring, I might add.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's some people who are flaming, but other than that, we won't go there.
It's a whole other situation for a whole other day.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but my stress levels have definitely come down now that I realize that so much of it is so unnecessary, and I don't have to think about it. I don't have to fret. I don't have to run in circles and scream out. Yeah, it's just, wow, this is good. So thank you very much for your insight, Joel. Appreciate it as usual.
It's great to be here, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, we'll be looking forward to it. Absolutely. That's when you're back on a permanent basis, so we like that. And Alex, of course, I get to see you twice a week. So, and we're going to be doing our usual conversations about the grass is greener. We got to get our task set. That's our task for the next 2 days. So you, me, and PJ, we got to get together.
Yep.
So we will do that. And I want to thank all of our listeners, including our live stream listeners and our podcast listeners as well. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.